Welcome back to another episode of The Essential Talk. So, what is essential to talk about today? Today, we have Advocate Vibhu Anshuman with us to talk about litigation and the life of a lawyer. Now, the only fact is that life of a lawyer is better explained by a lawyer himself. Vibhu Anshuman is a pass out of Amity Law School in 2011. He's been practicing litigation for more than a decade right now. He has participated in international moot courts as well. So, who better than so experienced than Vibhu Sir? Welcome, sir. Thanks to have you, and it's an honor to have a conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Divyansh. And honestly, for any individual, it's an honor once he's called back to its alma mater for any sort of a discussion. It's a honor in itself for that person. So I'm really grateful to you that you gave me an opportunity to come here and have a ta-ta-ta with you for regarding.
The honor is ours, sir.
Please,
so,
thank you.
Starting with what essential we have today is litigation.
Right.
If you've seen, I personally believe that there has been a lot of transformation, that people are not willing to go to litigation practice. They're wanting to go to corporate because I believe there's this myth that there's more money or more easy life in the corporate sector or in the in-house sector. So what are your viewpoints on that?
Well, to an extent, it is right that yes, a lot of brain drain, I would say, it's there from litigation towards the corporate. One of the reasons is the money aspect, obviously, in the beginning, because the problem with litigation, I would not say the problem, it's the natural corollary, I would say, with litigation is that in the beginning, the sort of paychecks which you get in the corporate, it is not there in the litigation. The reason is, one, you are practicing with a senior. Now, the notion with the seniors, to an extent with a lot of seniors, is that the junior is there to learn with him. So it's sort of a teacher-student relationship. So he feels that you're not working, basically a new joinee is not working for him, but then he's there to learn the tricks and trades of the trade with him. So that pay which he gets in the office is more of a stipend than a salary. Whereas if you compare it with the corporate world, from day one you are taught to get the business rolling, get the deals done. So there the paycheck is equivalent to the kind of work which you are doing. So since this sort of an anomaly is there between litigation and corporate, that is the reason a lot of people choose corporate over litigation in the beginning. Secondly, I feel that especially if you are not from the place where you are practicing, say Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, these are like the mecca of litigation practice. But if you are not from there, so for a person who has just graduated from law school, it is very difficult for him to sustain himself if you are not getting a decent salary. And litigation, as I told you, you cannot compare that salary with the corporate.
Okay, so following to this point, are you a first-gen lawyer?
I am a first-generation lawyer.
So, as a first-gen lawyer, how difficult it is to make a choice to go for either litigation or the corporate world, because you have to struggle in both of them since you have no backing up. So, how would that be a career or a choice or a dilemma rather for the person?
So I'll be honest with you. I never had a dilemma about the fact that I have to go into litigation.
Okay.
Because when I joined law college, it was very clear in my head that eventually I have to practice in courts, no matter how tough or easy it is going to be for me. And that is the reason I used to partake moot courts and various other debating events and all these things. So I feel that for any person, it is their inner calling, I would say, which should basically guide them to choose whether they want to go into litigation or they want to go into corporate. Money aspect is there, yes. At times, even litigation lawyers feel that, we should join corporate or maybe we should go in-house because the kind of money which we will get probably is not comparable to what we are getting now. But then again, I have seen a lot of cases where people have, because of this particular aspect, they have shifted their domain from litigation to corporate. But eventually they come back to the litigation part only, because you cannot change your intrinsic values. Money is there, yes, it's a very important factor. I totally agree with that. But a person who is intrinsically, capable of doing things in court, I don't think so that he will be comfortable, going for a desk job, and cracking deals with others and not getting to argue in courts. I mean, that's what my personal feeling is. So my suggestion to anyone who is in a dilemma is that you think about it, and yes, and one more thing I want to add here is that corporate is sort of vilified by a lot of litigation lawyers. I don't think so. It should be that sort of a vilification should be there for corporate, because see, ultimately we require both. It's not that just litigation is the only thing which is running the wheels of justice. Corporate is also there, and we need a lot of corporate, because we don't want disputes to arise, because eventually what happens is, if there are a lot of disputes, it ultimately impacts the investments which are coming in the country. So corporate in a way is sort of a barrier before you enter into a dispute. If that can be sorted before getting into the dispute, that's a very good thing. So yes, and for me, as you asked, being a first generation lawyer, the difficulties which I faced, I would say that the foremost difficulty is to find a good chamber to practice in. I was grateful and I'm thankful to my seniors from college itself who referred me to a very good chamber. I worked there, learned a lot from there, and then eventually started my own practice. And since the time I've started my practice, you face new challenges every day.
You're on your own now.
I am on my own, yes. Nobody's there to take care of me. I don't have paychecks every month coming in for sure. And there will be times you will be briefless. There will be days you will be briefless. There will be days when people would come seek advice and then go somewhere else. So, and the most important is that you are the one who has to generate work. There's nobody there's no back end here that a work is being generated towards you and you have to work upon it. So for a first generation litigation lawyer, I would say for any litigation lawyer, till the time you make your name, I feel that you have to generate the work, you have to work on that work, and then you have to deliver the work.
You said there are days.
Yeah.
What about the day that you have, like on usual days? How is your routine? Quite hectic or like?
I enjoy it. Yes, it is hectic, and I want it to be hectic because being a litigation lawyer, that is one thing I feel you should want. I mean, nobody wants to be free and vacant. That it doesn't work for a litigation lawyer. So my typical day starts around 5:45 to 6 in the morning.
Okay.
I get up, exercise for some time, because then again, it's a long drawn battle litigation. So, I mean, taking cue from our Attorney General, who is 90 years old at this age, and if you see him in courts, it's so wonderful. I mean, at 90 he can do such things. It's wonderful to watch. So, get up in the morning, I exercise, then I leave for office around 8 to 8:15, go to office, read probably for an hour or so, and then attend court hearings, come back around, depends on how many matters I have on that particular day. Usually come back around 1:30 in the afternoon, and post that prepare, either you are drafting or you're preparing for the next day matters.
So, since it is quite hectic to be a litigation lawyer, to move around courts, to gather your clients, to create a goodwill around in the market, and to at the same point of time make sure you get a paycheck from the clients.
That is the most important thing
in the month. What about the factor that keeps you motivated keeps you motivated basically to do that same thing again and again? I am sure there must be, every day is not Sunday. And I believe I heard it somewhere that in lawyers they say every day is not Saturday, because on Saturdays most of the lawyers get paid for the days they have done in the court. So what about that thing? How do you keep yourself motivated to carry on with the same routine, drafting those 200 pages drafts and all of that? How is that motivation?
I feel that you take every day as a challenge, and you plan only about the next day. You don't plan about the weeks ahead or years ahead. You plan about the next day. So I like personally I look forward to the very next day, that what am I supposed to do, and if there is a case, I'll prepare it. I'll prepare it in the same very manner the way I prepared the previous day's case. Motivation, I feel that motivation comes from the fact that when you see great people like Falias Nariman, Mr. Harish Salve, Mukul Rohatgi, all these stalwarts, when you see them in court practicing, arguing, I have this sort of a feeling that, I want to be there one day, in that stature. So that is the kind of motivation I feel is there, and that is the kind of motivation which pushes me every day to work towards my goals. But as I said, that's a very long drawn battle. And for you to be motivated, I think you should keep small goals for yourself, and particularly maybe daily goals, weekly goals. I think that is the way forward, and that is how one should
Okay,
be motivated.
one more thing adding to this. Most of the litigation lawyers, as per me, I've seen two kinds. One, those who just care about the case and the money, they will do the best up to the limit, all under the law, to win you the case. Second are who are personally connected to their clients and will do anything over the limits, will go to so far just to make sure they are satisfied and they win. So is that right to bring your feelings between and get personal with the case, or it has to be professional? What are your viewpoints on this?
My personal opinion is that you should not bring your personal emotions, and you should not be emotionally involved in the case. Because the reason is that as soon as you become emotional, you start thinking emotionally, and you don't really weigh the pros and cons, and you don't see the case from all the perspectives. Because see, the client is always emotional about his case because it's his own case, but he has come to you. So I feel that more than emotions, what is required at that point of time is intellectuality. That you make him understand that, look, this is your case, this is the best I'll do for you, and this is the best which can happen. I've seen a lot of people, they have this practice that they would tell each one on sundry that you will win this case. I'll make sure that you win this case, which is not the, I would say, which is not the right practice. It's not professionally, it's not fair. You should tell the right picture to the person who has come to seek help from you, and eventually let him decide whether he wants to go with that sort of a advice or not. Just because I know it is important for us to earn money, but then at the same time, it is not right practice to not tell the truth to the person who has come to you for seeking advice or for you to help him fight his case.
Okay, so there are a lot of myths about litigation out in the market, that the liability and the cost of the lawsuit and everything is quite high. And are those myths true, or all of that is just because everybody believes that if you file a case, it's going to take years and years and years to get resolved and get justice. So is that really true, or is that just because of the people and the lawyers that are not willing to get those cases closed as soon as possible?
So basically, as I understand from your question, this more relates or ponders on the issue of pendency of cases
Yes.
which are there in the court. So, I feel that there are two facets to it. One of the facets is that there is no denying the fact that there is a dearth of judges numbers in the lower judiciary as well as the high courts. So I was reading somewhere probably 2-3 days back in the newspaper that there is only one judge for approximately 1 million people or maybe 500,000 people in India. So that's a very disturbing figure, I would say. So one of the facets is, yes, the pendency is because of the fact that there are less judges compared to the number of cases which are being filed. The second facet is that, as you rightly said, that a lot of times there is, I would say, lawyers, they are not doing their job properly. They don't read the briefs, or they have so many briefs that they do not get the time to, read all of the briefs and seek adjournments and everything. Having said that, now I feel, probably post-COVID, I would say, that a lot of judges are also being proactive, and until unless there is a very serious issue with the advocate, or he's in some sort of a grave problem, they are reluctant to give dates as such. And overall, if this sort of a practice is built up and this is continued, I feel this problem can be checked both ways. That is, appointing judges is the part of the is the function of the executive. At the same time, we lawyers as the officers of the court also have this responsibility that we should look forward in getting somebody who has come for a relief. We should also look forward and try to get his problem solved in a time-bound manner. Only then I feel this problem of pendency could be solved.
Okay, recently, Chief Justice of India stated that you should also bring arbitration and mediation into consideration for resolving the cases. And since they are methods particularly given to resolve cases, so that the burden on the courts are lessened and the cases get resolved outside, is that a way of justice, or should we just rely on the courts and the judiciary, the judges only, for getting the proper justice?
So no, absolutely not. I mean, that would be a disaster if we only rely on the courts to adjudicate upon the matters, because that will be a very medieval thinking. Because now what is happening is, everybody knows, since LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization, and post 2014, there's a lot of international investment which is coming into the country. Now the international investors are very wary of the fact that we know that Indian judicial system is bogged down by a lot of pendency. So when an international investor comes and invests in India, he wants a surety that, look, if tomorrow there is any sort of a dispute, I should have a mechanism where I can resolve it in a steadfast manner and not like get embroiled in a lifelong, donkey years of litigation. So therefore, coming back to the question, only and only court proceedings cannot resolve disputes. Has to, and he, Honorable CJI, rightly said that apart from court hearings, mediation and arbitration should be made one of the, and it is as I say, because it is being made a very important channel of dispute resolution. And if you see, a lot of practice has evolved around mediation and arbitration in the recent years.
Okay. In the recent scenarios, the importance of practical knowledge along with the theoretical knowledge has significantly grown, specifically in the field of law. Keeping this in mind, what roles does internships play in the entire career and the field? How do you perceive as how much important is for a law student to do good his or her internship?
Okay. So then again, as a law student, there are two things: something which you learn in the law college, and something which there's a hands-on approach. There's a very famous saying, if I'm recalling it correctly, by Benjamin Franklin, that if you show me, I'll forget. If you teach me, I may learn. But if you work with me, if you teach me, I may remember. But if you work with me, I will learn. So I feel, if I'm not correct, maybe some words here or there, but the crux of the matter is, yes, the hands-on approach is very important. Internships, I feel that as much as it is the job of the person who is interning with the lawyers, I feel that it is even more important for the lawyer who is basically guiding that particular intern, that he should guide him in a way that the person who has come to intern with you should learn something and go back. Because I have seen at times there is a practice that people call a lot of interns to their office, and then the interns are only running from one court to the other without they're like headless chicken, so you don't know that what is happening. You're just, running from one court to the other. I feel that yes, court exposure is very important, but at the same time, lawyers should take out some time and try to explain to the intern that look, this is the whole long and short of the case, if I would say, and you have to work upon this particular issue. If you don't understand, please come and ask. So I feel it's a two-way process. The willingness of the intern to learn, as well as the willingness of the person under whom he is interning to teach.
So, sir, moving on with the next thing, that is a very typical question. I believe you must have heard it 1,000 times. I guess according to your perspective, I know you're a big litigation fan, you've been litigating for the decade, but if you're not you right now, I ask you as a third person, not Vibhu Anshuman sir, but as a normal lawyer who has not a biased, I would rather say, but has a very common viewpoint on corporate and litigation world. What would you suggest to a person what to go with in the starting if the person has both willing to learn and at the same point of time earning something?
So I would ask, usually I ask two things to that person. People do come to me and seek advice, especially people who are not from the fraternity, I would say, second generation or third generation, because usually this sort of a problem or this sort of a dilemma is there with people who are first generation lawyers, or nobody is there in their family to guide them. So I simply suggest them two things, that look, if the place of practice is the place where you live and you have a setup, then go by your inner feeling that if you want, you can join litigation. And a lot of people don't want to join litigation because of the fact that they are not very outspoken, or I would say very comfortable speaking in the court. So they choose corporate. Some people, they like to deal with big clients. They don't want these niggle and naggles and day-to-day hassles of litigation which you face, and they are happy dealing with them in 5 stars and whatnot places. So some people aspire for that sort of a profession. Some people like me, I have I don't go towards money in the beginning. I would not say that litigation does not have money. It has a lot of money, probably more than corporate, once you have established your practice. But in the beginning, I would say that the feeling that you have helped someone, won a case, that's a very good feeling. You will realize once you do it. my suggestion always to people is that everybody from within, they know what they want. So coming back to what I was saying, that I always suggest them that if you are practicing in a place where you are living and you know that you can afford to, say for 5-6 years, you can be penny wise and work. So my suggestion to them, and if provided if they want to go into litigation, I suggest them to go into litigation. If not, then corporate or in-house. Because if you see today, the horizons have widened so much that there is immense, I would say, exposure and opportunities in corporate as well. So that sort of a thinking that lawyers only can litigate and litigation is the only real thing which a lawyer is doing, I don't think so. That sort of a understanding is there anymore. Corporate is very good, and if somebody, because see, the problem is that we as human beings are, I would say, we get influenced by these movies and everything, and movies usually don't show the sort of corporate work which is happening. They only show, like movies like Jolly LLB and all. Although nothing like that happens in courts. I mean,
That's true.
You yourself have seen, nothing like that happens. It's a very disciplined atmosphere which is there. But nevertheless, so that sort of a picture is there in everybody's mind, and everybody wants that sort of a fame. And true, to an extent, I would say that yes, with litigation, there is a lot of, I would say, fame which is attached to the profession, and there's a lot of respect as well once you establish your name. That sort of a thing somewhat is missing in the corporate, because you are working in a very back-end sort of a structure where, I mean, you might be doing more work than a litigation lawyer is doing, I'm sure. But then there is not that sort of a fame which is there.
The company names comes.
The company, yours. Exactly. The company with which you are attached, that is always there above your head. With litigation, it is you who is, whose name is basically, being famous. So I always suggest that keeping this particular thing, because see, ultimately, if you don't have the money, you will not have, eventually your motivation, your urge and everything would die. So if you are practicing there, then yes, litigation. If you are living and practicing in the same city. If not, then you should look for corporate and in-house.
Okay, so the last question for the entire conversation. There must have been a turning point in your life where you would have decided to become a lawyer, or you would have decided to do something, every person has that career changing point or life changing point. What was yours?
So honestly, I never wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
I am an accidental lawyer. In my family, I am the youngest one, and all my elder siblings are either doctors, engineers or scientists.
Okay.
I am the only lawyer in the family. So law certainly was nowhere in my head or my family's head. So, but turning point, I feel that I am still to achieve that sort of a turning point in my life where I would say that yes, this is the defining moment where I have realized that, oh, I have done good as a lawyer, or I did well by choosing this profession. I feel that 10 years is a nascent practice for a litigation lawyer. Having said that, I feel that someday I will get that opportunity and I'll come back and tell you that what turning point will be.
What was that one failure that, made you understand that, okay, this is something I have to really work on, and this is something I will outcome very soon?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so there's a short story. I was the school head boy during my school days. So, as a head boy, you had to address the gathering in the beginning as well as the end. I was very scared to, stand at the dais and speak.
Okay.
So, and inevitably I had to do it. And I used to feel very, jittery while standing on the stage and speaking. So I never used to look at the crowd. I always used to I used to read from the paper, which whatever speech I used to prepare. So when I joined law college, I made sure that, and then I thought to myself, I told myself that look, now you're going into a profession where you need to be open, you need to speak, you have to be interactive. So that was my biggest, I would say, flaw or weakness, I would say. And I overcame that by starting to participate in debates. So as soon as there was the first debate in college, I prepared and I participated in that debate. And I think that was the day, and I decided that I will be a good speaker and I'll leave as a good speaker from this college. And then I started participating. Thankfully, I won a couple of awards.
The rest is history.
I feel that there is still a lot of way, for me to cover, but I also feel that I am doing good.
Okay, I'm really sorry to push this. I just had this question in my mind personally. How important it is for a litigation lawyer to have good contacts?
Okay, so I feel that this is a very generic question, and this is not just in litigation, in every sphere, in every profession these days. You need to do a lot of networking. Contacts means networking, networking, meeting people and stuff, because that is how people would know that what you're doing. Thankfully, in these present times, with the help of social media, especially LinkedIn and all, professionally, you don't need to, nowadays, people do know about your work through all these platforms. But contacts and connects, I feel, is important for every profession. Litigation, since in itself it's so challenging, and we almost counted so many challenges of litigation. There it helps in a way that if you know people who are in good positions and everything, so it is easier for you to generate work. But then again, it has to be backed with capability. I mean, the person who knows you or who is there in contact with you, he should have that confidence in you that, okay, if I, give this job to this person, then he will be able to deliver me results. So ultimately, connects, very important, but at the same time, it has to be backed by your capability to work.
Nice talking to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Great experience.
Same here.
Thank you for
Likewise.
coming to Essential Talk once again. With this, we'll wrap up. We'll see you soon, and that's the end of today's episode. My name is Divyansh, and we'll see you next soon.